You're standing at the edge of the forest. It's 40,000 BC. The sun is still up, but something feels wrong. There's no weather app, there's no forecast, there's no little icon telling you whether to bring a jacket. There's just the sky, the wind on your skin, and a decision that might kill you. Do you head out to hunt? Do you stay near the cave? Do you cross the valley now or wait until tomorrow? You're reading the world with nothing but your senses and the knowledge passed down from people who got it right. Because the ones who got it wrong, they didn't make it back to tell anyone. And somewhere, at some point, your ancestor looked at the behavior of birds, the color of the sunset, the smell of the air, and thought, we need to move, now. This is the story of how ancient humans survived without weather forecasts. Not lucky guesses, not primitive superstition, not just hoping for the best. We're talking about a sophisticated system of observation, pattern recognition, and environmental literacy that most modern humans have completely lost. And why that might be one of the most important survival skills our species ever developed. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. The ability to read weather patterns might have determined which human populations survived and which ones went extinct. Not metaphorically, literally. Let's start with survival. Because before you can build civilization, before you can farm or plan or store food, you need to not die from exposure, flooding, or being caught in the open during a deadly storm. And weather prediction has been part of the human survival toolkit for far longer than we give our ancestors credit for. The oldest confirmed evidence of humans adapting shelter based on seasonal weather patterns dates back roughly 400,000 years from a site called Terra Amata in southern France. Archaeologists found remains of temporary shelters that were rebuilt in the same location across multiple seasons, specifically positioned to block prevailing winds. Not random construction, deliberate, informed placement based on understanding local wind patterns. By 100,000 years ago, Homo sapiens in Africa were already demonstrating seasonal migration patterns that required accurate prediction of rainfall. Sites along the southern African coast show evidence of coordinated movement between inland and coastal areas, movements timed precisely with seasonal changes. These weren't small groups wandering aimlessly. These were planned migrations involving dozens or hundreds of people, requiring consensus about when to move. And if you got that timing wrong, if the rains didn't come when you expected, or you moved too early into a region where food wasn't ready yet, people died. The Blombos Cave in South Africa, occupied between 100,000 and 70,000 years ago, shows evidence of intensive shellfish harvesting that required precise understanding of tidal patterns and lunar cycles. The people living there needed to know not just when is low tide, but when will the lowest tides of the month occur to access specific shellfish. That's not instinct, that's transmitted knowledge, that's education. By the time modern humans left Africa and spread across the globe between 70,000 and 50,000 years ago, they were entering radically different climate zones: tropical Africa, arid Middle East, seasonal Mediterranean, eventually Ice Age Europe and Asia. Each environment had completely different weather patterns, different warning signs, different dangers, and they figured it out. They had to. But here's where it gets interesting. Modern researchers studying traditional societies, groups who still maintain pre-industrial knowledge, have found something remarkable. These populations can predict weather with accuracy that rivals or sometimes exceeds short-term meteorological forecasting. This isn't a fringe observation. Anthropologists and climate scientists have been documenting this for decades. Andrea J. Nightingale, a researcher at the University of Edinburgh, published work in 2017 analyzing indigenous weather knowledge in Nepal. The communities she studied could predict rainfall patterns, frost timing, and storm arrival with extraordinary accuracy using entirely observational methods. The basic argument goes like this. When your survival depends on being right about tomorrow's weather, you get very, very good at reading environmental signals. Not just one or two signals, but dozens of interconnected indicators that most modern people never notice. And the data actually supports this. A 2015 study published in Weather, Climate, and Society compared traditional weather forecasting by Kenyan pastoralists with official meteorological forecasts. The pastoralists' accuracy for short-term rainfall prediction was statistically equivalent to formal forecasts, and in some cases, better for local microclimates. These aren't people with rain gauges and satellites. These are people watching birds, feeling humidity, observing insect behavior, and reading cloud formations. The same techniques their ancestors used for tens of thousands of years. Let's talk about what ancient humans were actually observing, because this wasn't mysticism. It was empirical science developed through trial, error, and collective memory. Animal behavior. Animals react to barometric pressure changes, humidity shifts, and electromagnetic changes before storms. Ancient humans noticed. If cattle cluster together and face away from a particular direction, a storm is coming from that direction. If birds fly low and erratically, air pressure is dropping, precipitation is imminent. If ants build up their mounds or cover entrances, heavy rain is expected. There's a reason these observations show up in the folklore of virtually every pre-industrial culture on Earth. They work. A 2011 study from the University of Florida documented that cattle genuinely do orient themselves away from approaching storms, sometimes up to 24 hours before humans can detect weather changes with instruments. Ancient herders didn't have the barometers to know why it worked. They just knew it did. And if you're a hunter-gatherer tracking game, you're already watching animals constantly. You notice patterns. Sky reading. Ancient humans became experts in cloud morphology, the shape, color, movement, and altitude of clouds. Cirrus clouds, high, wispy, followed by thickening cloud cover, means a warm front is approaching, rain in 12 to 24 hours. Rapidly building vertical clouds in the afternoon mean possible thunderstorms. A red sky at night, when the western sky is clear enough for sunset colors to show, means stable weather tomorrow. Red sky in morning means moisture is moving in from the west. This isn't superstition. This is basic meteorology observed without instruments. The Aboriginal people of Australia developed cloud classification systems that rival modern meteorological categories. The Yolngu people of Arnhem Land have specific terms for over 12 cloud types, each associated with particular weather patterns and seasonal changes. Plant and environmental signals. Plants respond to humidity, temperature, and barometric pressure. Ancient humans noticed that too. Pine cones close before rain, responding to humidity. Certain flowers close before storms. Morning dew that dries quickly suggests stable weather. Dew that persists approaching moisture. The Maori of New Zealand developed a sophisticated system called Matamataka, a lunar calendar integrated with environmental observations that guided planting, harvesting, and fishing. Not just moon phases, but combinations of lunar timing, cloud patterns, wind direction, and plant behavior. This knowledge was so precise that modern New Zealand farmers and fishers are now relearning these systems because they work. The cross-cultural universality. Here's what should make you pause. These systems developed independently across every inhabited continent. The Inuit of the Arctic developed weather prediction based on ice formation patterns, animal behavior, and wind, completely different from tropical methods, but equally sophisticated. Polynesian navigators crossing thousands of miles of open ocean used wave patterns, cloud formations over distant islands, and bird behavior to predict weather days in advance. Their lives depended on it, and they successfully colonized the most remote islands on Earth. European sailors developed the weather rhyme tradition. Red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in morning, sailor take warning. These weren't cute poems. They were mnemonic devices for survival knowledge. Think about that for a second. Humans on every continent, in every climate, developed working weather prediction systems using nothing but observation and intergenerational knowledge transfer. That's not coincidence. That's fundamental human cognitive capacity applied to survival. Here's the part of this video that nobody expects. A lot of what ancient humans did to predict weather was more effective for immediate local conditions than what many of us use today. Not all of it. Absolutely not all of it. Modern meteorology can predict hurricane paths days in advance, track storm systems across continents, and model climate patterns globally. Ancient humans couldn't do that. But within the domain of what will the weather do in my specific location in the next 6 to 24 hours, there's a compelling argument that we've lost something valuable. Because here's what we gave up: constant environmental awareness. Ancient humans were always reading the world. Modern humans check an app. Multi-signal integration. Ancient prediction used dozens of simultaneous inputs. Modern people check a single source. Local precision. Ancient knowledge was hyperlocal, specific to a valley, a coastline, a particular mountain range. Modern forecasts cover large regions and miss microclimates. Embodied knowledge.
Ancient humans felt weather changes in their bodies, joint pain before pressure drops, skin sensitivity to humidity. Modern humans are climate-controlled and disconnected from environmental signals. None of this is a moral failure. It's the product of urbanization, technology, and the fact that most people's survival no longer depends on accurate weather prediction. But the rates of people getting caught unprepared in wilderness areas, hikers surprised by storms, and outdoor deaths from exposure in industrialized societies are real, documented, and remarkably high, often among people who checked a weather forecast but didn't actually read the environment around them. The forecast said clear skies, but the clouds, the wind, the drop in temperature, the change in bird behavior, all of it was screaming, "Get to shelter." Our ancestors would have known. We've forgotten. So how did ancient humans survive without knowing the weather? The honest answer is they did know the weather, just not the way we do. They didn't have meteorology, satellite imagery, or computer models, but they had something else.
An extraordinary capacity for pattern recognition, observation, and knowledge transmission, refined over hundreds of thousands of years. The behavioral and cognitive drive to predict environmental changes is almost certainly far older than our species. Even Homo erectus, 1.8 million years ago, was adapting to diverse climates across Africa and Asia, impossible without some form of weather prediction ability. What we know for certain is this: weather prediction is extraordinarily old. It predates agriculture, it predates permanent settlements, it predates written language. By the time anyone thought to write down "red sky at morning, sailor take warning," the knowledge was already ancient. The methods worked. The cross-cultural consistency, the survival of populations in extreme climates, the successful migration into new environments, all of it depended on the ability to read the sky, the wind, the animals, and the land. And we still carry that capacity. We've just stopped using it. There's something almost poetic about that. For all the things that separate modern humans from our ancestors, the satellites, the supercomputers, the weather stations, there are these thin threads of continuity that run unbroken through hundreds of thousands of years of human experience. The smell of rain approaching, the feeling of pressure dropping, the way the light changes before a storm. Your ancestor standing at the forest edge deciding whether to hunt is you standing at your door deciding whether to bring an umbrella. The technology changed, the precision changed, the scale changed, but the behavior, the deep human need to know what's coming, to read the world, to prepare, was already ancient by the time anyone thought to write it down. Next time you step outside and something just feels off about the weather, even though the forecast says it's fine, you're participating in something far older than you realize. You're doing what humans have always done. You're reading the world. This is Marina Explains. If this made you look at the sky differently, let me know in the comments. What weather signs have you noticed? See you in the next one.